Hey, what is up everyone? This is Abhishek from Motion Nations and welcome back to another exciting video on this channel. So first of all, we just hit 30,000 subscribers on this channel. So thank you so much. It's great to see how our community is growing and more people are joining our learning path. So I posted this animation on Instagram and many of you people liked it, and some of them were asking how I created this and would like to have a tutorial on that. So I created this animation using Blender, which is an open source 3D software which is completely free. You can download it from blender.org. Alright, with that being said, if you guys are new here, please consider subscribing and make sure to turn on post notifications. I upload tutorials and templates on this channel related to motion graphics, video editing and some other stuff, so you guys don't want to miss that out. So let's jump straight into this video and get started. Alright, so right now I'm in Blender, and in case you guys don't have Blender, you can follow up this tutorial of mine. I just uploaded it a couple of days ago, in which I have showed how you can install and set up Blender completely. So just watch that tutorial, and once you have Blender set up, you can continue watching this one. So first of all, let's make few things clear. I am relatively new to Blender, so in this tutorial, if I make some mistakes or something like that, just bear with me. I am learning with you guys, and so let me give you a few instructions. So over here you can see that in the bottom left corner we have these three buttons. So these represents my mouse. So if I click anywhere, it will tell you what I'm doing, and if I press any key, so you can check around if I do something. So for example, if I select this, then I am pressing S, so you can see that I am scaling it. So in that way you can get all the keys that I am pressing, in case I did not mention in this video. So just make sure to check out this area. So let's do few things first. Let's go to edit, and under preferences, let's make sure this option is selected, rotate around selection, so that we will rotate around the object whatever we have selected. Also make sure you have some basic knowledge how to move around the scene, how to select objects and something like that. And in case you guys don't know anything about Blender, I will put a tutorial link in the description below, from where you can get some like beginner's guide to the Blender, and after that you can watch this tutorial. So this is going to be relatively simple tutorial, nothing too complicated or in all. So just bear with me and let's get started. So over here we have our default scene. Let's select everything by pressing A on the keyboard, then delete to delete everything. So right now we have blank canvas, so we are going to add our text. So let's press Shift A on the keyboard, then under the text let's click on that, and over here you can see that we have our text. Now let me just rotate around, so you can check that I am using the middle mouse button to rotate around, and let's just zoom in, and over here we are going to edit our text. So under this panel, let's go to this A tab, and over here we have our options for the text. So let's first align the text, so make it center, and also make sure the vertical base is set to center also. And let's change our font. So you can change the font by simply going under the font, and then over here click on this button, and then you can select wherever you have stored your fonts. So for this example, I'm going to use this Norwester font, and here you can see that now our font has been changed. Now let's do few things. Let's rotate our text. So I'm pressing R, X 90 degree, so that our text is now rotated 90 degree along the x-axis. And let's just quickly edit the text by pressing tab key, so that it will take us to the edit mode. Now I'm just simply typing 0, then again press tab to get out of the edit mode, and now we are again back in the object mode. So here you can see that we have the 0 text, and now we are going to extrude it. So let's go to geometry, and under here we have the extrude value. So let's set this value to something like 0.1 or 0.2 maybe. Let's go to 1.5. So I think, yeah, this looks good. So now we have extruded our object. Now let's add some bevel to it. So over here, let's just select the object, and let's add the depth to something like 0.1, maybe not 0.1, 0.01, something like this. So here you can see that we have these nice bevel edges. Play around with the resolution to make it like smoother, but for this example I think let's go with 0, so that we have these hard edges like this. Now let's do few more things. Let's animate it quickly. So in order to do that, let's go to this menu and let's select our text, and then press N on the keyboard, so that it will reveal the transform options. And let's enable the timeline. Let's move the timeline up quite a bit, something like this, and make sure your object is selected. Now we're going to add some keyframes. So first we are going to add some rotation to it. So in the beginning we want the rotation to be like this 90 degrees. So let's right click, then insert keyframe, and over here you can see that the keyframes has been inserted. Now let's move to on the timeline. So I'm holding the right mouse key and let's go to 40 frame, and over here we want the value to change something like this 180 degrees. So let's type 180 over here and let's right click and insert keyframe. So if I play back here, you can see that now our animation is happening and our 0 letter is rotating. So in order to give it more like characteristic or movement, let's select this option and let's go to the graph editor, something like this, and let me just zoom it quite a bit. So over here we have the graph for the curve. Let's open up the object, and in case you are not able to see the graphs, make sure the normalize curve is normalized. This normalize button is checked, and after that you can see that we have the curves for the option. So let's select the X Euler rotation, and over here we are going to make the curves to look something like bit more dramatic. So first of all, let's select the edge point, and we want the edge to be like start really slow and after that speeds up. So let's just grab this point and I'm just holding it down so to move it something like this. So over here you can see that if I play back here, you can see that now it starts slowly, really slow, and after that it just simply goes to full speed, something like that. So we are pretty much done with the 0 part of the animation, and let's go back to the timeline. So if I play back here, you can see that we have this type of animation. Now we want the text to change to some other text. So for example, let's go with 9. So in order to do that, we are going to duplicate this text. So when this text object is selected, press Shift D on the keyboard and it will duplicate it. Then press Escape because we do not want to move it. And over here you can see that we have now 2 texts, and let's just rename the text number 1 to 0 so that we can differentiate between them. Let's change the text number 2 to 9, and make sure you have the 9 text selected, so something like this. And then I can press tab on the keyboard to enter into the edit mode again. Then I'm just simply typing 9, then again press tab to get out of the edit mode. So over here you can see that now we have both the objects, so these are overlapping each other. We do not want that, so let's fix that quickly. So as you can see that now our animation is happening, and around 40 frames we want our animation of the 9 letter to start. So let's just focus on the 9 letter. Let's just hide this 0 by pressing this eye icon so that we cannot see it in the viewport. And over here we are going to add the keyframes for the 9 animation. So let's just simply select these keyframes by pressing AA. So make sure your 9 is selected, and after that in the timeline press double A to select all these keyframes, then press delete because we are going to add another keyframes. So in the beginning we want the rotation to start from the other side, so something like 0. So let's set the X value to 0, then again right click, insert keyframe, and then we are again going to move 40 frames, so somewhere around 80. Let's change the rotation to 90 degree so that it's facing front side. Then again right click, insert keyframe. So over here you can see that we have this sort of animation. Then again we are going to edit the curves, so let's go to the graph editor, and over here we have all our curves. So just like we did with the last example, let's grab this handle and make sure it's pointing up, something like this, so that it starts really fast and then slows down. So let's go back to the timeline, and if I play back here, you can see that now we have this sort of animation, which is really nice. And let's enable our 0 value. So over here you can see that now we have both the text, and as you can see that the 0 animation happens first and after that 9 happens. But there's one small problem, that both the text are visible at the same time. So let's quickly fix that. So make sure your 0 is selected, and let's go to frame number 40, and over here we are going to add some small animation to the scale. So just before the 40 frame, let's go to frame number 39. I'm just using the left arrow key, and over here we want the scale value to be whatever it is right now. As soon as it reaches the 40, I want the scale values to be 0. So let's just change the scale values for all the values, for all the axes to be 0, and after that right click, insert keyframe. So over here you can see that now our 0 is coming, and as soon as it hits the 40 mark, it just disappears. Now we're going to do the same thing but in the reverse order for the 9. So select the 9, and At 40 we want the 9 to be visible, so let's add a keyframe for that. But just before that, at 39 we want the 9 value to be 0, so let's set scale to 0 for all the axes and insert a keyframe. So if I play back here, you can see that now our value is changing, so the 0 just shrinks and the 9 comes back. So if I play back here, you can see that we have this sort of animation, which is really nice, and we have completed our text animation. Alright, so right now we are pretty much done with the text animation part. So our next step is to set up the scene and do some lighting. So for that we are going to add a plane. So press Shift A, then go to mesh, add a plane. Now I'm going to scale this by pressing S, then 4, so that it scales 4 times. And after that, let's select this edge by pressing Tab. I'm going to enter into the edit mode. After that, make sure you are in the edge select mode, and then select this edge, and then press E to extrude it along the Z axis. Then I'm pressing Z so that I can extrude it along the Z axis, then 5 so that it extrudes to the 5 value, and after that click. And now let's select this edge, which is this in middle of these two plane, then press Ctrl B to bevel it, then press 0.5 so that we can bevel it like 0.5, or maybe we can go with 0.4 or 3, something like that. Let's go with 0.4. So 0.4 is good. Now I'm just moving the mouse wheel so that I can add some few of these steps to smooth it out. So something like this. After that, just simply click and it will make the shapes like that. Then press Tab again to get out of the edit mode, and then right click on smooth shade so that we have this kind of shape. And now let's just quickly scale it up. So I'm pressing S, X along the x-axis so that I can scale it something like this. And we are pretty much done with the studio part. So now let's do some lighting. So press Shift A, then go to light, area light, then press G4, GZ4 so that we can move it in the Z space like 4 units, something like this. And let's just move around. So I'm going to now scale it. So S4 to scale it 4 times, something like this. And let's add another light. So I'm going to again press Shift A, then light, then go to area light, and now this time we are going to rotate it. So press R Y to rotate it 90 degrees so that our light is right now pointing this way. Then press G X4 so that we can move it along the x-axis 4 units, something like this. And after that, let's scale it up. So press S4 to scale it something like this. And let's just quickly duplicate this light by pressing Shift D to duplicate it, then press X to move it along the x-axis, then press -4 so that it's somewhere around here, then press G, then press again -4 so that the light is on the opposite side of the scene. And now let's just quickly rotate it. So by pressing R Y, I can rotate it 180 degrees so that these two lights are pointing each other. Now in order to quickly show how our lighting setup is done, so let's just switch to rendered mode. In order to do that, just simply click on this icon and it will take you into the rendered mode. So over here you can see that we have our lighting setup, and let's just quickly select the text. So just select both of these text, then press G Z, and let's move it 1 so that it's above the floor, something like this. And let's add our camera. So I'm going to press Shift A, then go to camera, and then press numpad 0 to move inside the camera. So I can now press N on the keyboard to reveal this transform menu, and over here you can see that we have this property called lock camera to view. So what this will do is, now if I move my camera, here you can see that it's moving along with the scene, so I can position it wherever I want. So let's just quickly change the camera setting. Make sure you are in the camera view, then click on this camera icon, and over here set the type from perspective to orthographic so that it changes the perspective, something like this. Then you can probably scale it down to match your scene, and just simply move around the scene so that it has some really nice angle, something like this. Maybe we can select both of these text layers and then press GZ to move them a little bit down, something around here. So this is looking nice, and let's just select all the lights. So area light 1, and we are going to play around with some of these values. So let's set the cast shadow option softness to something like 20 so that we have nice soft shadow at the edge. And let's select area light number 1, and we are going to drop its intensity to something like 2.5 or something. and let's select the light number 2, and again do the same thing, 2.5, so that we have this really nice lightning going on. Let's select the top area, and we can probably lower its value to something like, let's go with 8. And you can play around with the size of these lights, so let's just increase the size so it will make it brighter or dimmer however you want. Make sure the shadow value for all the lights are set to 20, so that we have this really nice soft shadow going on. Just set it to 20, something like this for all the lights. And now let's just quickly add some colors to our scene. So select the plane, after that click on this icon and let's click on new. So we're going to create a simple color, so let's just set its value to something like pink, maybe around here. So I think this looks good, or you can go around with some other value. So for this example, let's go with this purple tone, something like this. And over here you can see that we have this really nice texture going on. So let's just quickly select the text layer and add material to them. We are going to create a simple material for these, nothing too complex, just make sure it's white. And in the same way, just select the 9 letter and let's just change its color to white, so that we have this sort of look. And we are going to do few things. So let's go to the camera, this option, scene settings, and over here you can see that we have this option called screen space reflection. Just make sure it's enabled so that it will add some really nice reflections in the background. Also make sure you can enable the bloom effect, so just simply click on that and it will enable some sort of bloom in the scene. You can play around with its intensity, probably let's lower it down to something like 0.1. So just play around with the intensity value, so let's go with 0.05, something like that. Let's select the area light and we are going to add some colors to the light. So over here we are going to, let's select the light, which one we are doing. So this one, let's make its color to something like bluish, so that we have this really nice bluish tone going on. Let's select the second light, and for this one we are going to make it sort of orange look, something like this. So over here you can see that we have this really nice orange teal look going on. Now let's play with few other settings. So over here you can see that we have this specular value, so I can probably lower it down to have some really nice color in the background. So just play around with the value. So I think this looks good. Over here you can see that we have this really nice setup going on. Let's do one more thing, let's add some fake lighting to it. So in order to do that, just press Shift A, then go to light probe and add the irradiance volume light, then press S to scale it up so that it scales to the entire scene. And you can probably view it something like this, and make sure to position it so GZ, so that all the lights are in between this area. And let's go to the camera view by pressing 0. So let's disable all the lights to show you guys what this will do. Let's go to the scene settings, and over here you can see that we have this option called indirect lighting. Just click on bake indirect lighting, and as you can see that it has created some fake lighting in the background. So now let's just simply enable all the lights, and over here you can see that we have some really nice lighting going on. Maybe the top light is too bright, so we can select it and then go to the light, and over here we can play around with the size either, or we can lower down its energy value, something like this, so that we have this really nice soft lighting going on. You can play around with all these values to have some different kind of looks, something like this. So over here you can see that we have this really nice scene going on. And maybe there's one more thing which you guys can do. You can play around with the materials of the surface. So for example, let's go to this plane and I can add some metallic surface to it. So if I increase the metallic value and then lower down the roughness, so over here you can see that we have this really nice reflection for the text going on, something like this. And so you can play around with these value. Maybe the text is too bright, so I can go to the text color and I can change it to a little bit darker, something like this. Yeah, so this looks good. Then I can simply select the 9 letter and again change the value to match the color. So over here you can see that we have this really nice reflections and everything going on. So you can quickly preview this scene by pressing F12 on your keyboard. So over here you can see that we have the rendered view of this scene. Maybe if the shadows are too strong, you can play around with the value of the softener. So just simply select on this scene option, and over here you can see that we have the option for shadows. Make sure the soft shadow is checked, and over here you can see that we have now some soft shadow in the scene. So over here you can see that now we have some really nice soft shadow going on. So this is how you guys can create your custom scenes with some text animation like that, and you can probably play around with the lights and some other values to give some different looks. So for example, let's change the color of the plane. Maybe I want it to have some sort of red color or pink, something like that. Just play around with these different values. You can add some colors to the light. So let's add some bluish tone, something like this, or some greenish, whatever you want. Just play around with these values. This is completely experimental, and you can have some different looks with that. So this is how you guys can create some really nice text animation along with some studio lighting and all. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching this tutorial and learned something new. So with that being said, if you guys have any query or question, you can ask me in the comments below. So that's it for this video. This is Abhishek, and I'll see you in the next one.